up to class, they go home, their eyes move over the pages that they're supposed to read, right? And then they go back to the class the next day, and they're not really sure what they're supposed to be doing for those 2 hours per hour of classroom time, right? It's like everybody keeps telling me that I'm supposed to have 2 hours at home working for every hour I have in the classroom, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. So these are some strategies for using that time effectively. Because the real key is that you want strategies that are effective and efficient. Because another mistake that a lot of students make is, because it's easy to do in our academic culture, is to go to class, read, not review until midterm. And then and a lot of students have to cram a whole half a term's worth of studying into a very short window of time, which is not effective. And a lot of students also make the mistake of rereading instead of studying, right? Like hopefully you don't have to reread things, because if you read it effectively and in an engaged manner where you're collecting, organizing, and rehearsing and evaluating, then you're going to be learning it all along, right? So the trick to studying well is studying from the very beginning, right? So if you are using some of the strategies that I'm going to tell you about consistently throughout the quarter, by the time that midterm comes, you're going to be so prepared, right? Because you're going to know what you don't know. So first thing is, have you seen this handout before? This is a little blurb about the difference between high school and college. And there's a back. So let's give you a second to read it. But as you do that, I want you to think about what you notice and what you wonder. It's the easiest way to get into a handout or reading, or even looking at a piece of art or a table or all kinds of things. And you can do it, you can take notes about what you notice and wonder on the actual handout, or a lot of times I give my students a handout that just has 2 columns, what I notice and what I wonder. And this works really well if you're preparing for discussions. So like you know that you're going to have a seminar or a discussion in class the next day. If you're making notes about what you notice and you wonder, you come in with points that you can share. So I'll take a couple of minutes, have you read through the handout, and try to jot down a couple of things that you notice or wonder as you go. probably go on a little bit more, and you can certainly come back to it at the end of the workshop. But anything that you want to share, what you noticed or wondered?
Makes you wonder why the college system is way more difficult.
I think freedom is a lot of it, right? That you don't have, college teachers are much less inclined to babysit,
Yeah.
right? Some people, but not most of us. I don't want to nag my students. I don't want to chase my students down. I don't want to hyper-focus on individual students' grades when I'm trying to teach and get ready for class and all that sort of stuff. And so the onus is really on students, right, to manage their time and manage themselves, right, in order to be where you need to be and do what you need to do, because we're not going to nag you most of the time. Right? In fact, I even had a professor in college who put a due date for a paper in the syllabus and never reminded us. And then the day that the paper was due, like a few of us came in with papers, but most of the class didn't, right? Because he never reminded us, it's in the syllabus, and most teachers around here don't do that kind of thing, but they could. They could. All right, so the real important concept here for if you're going to study effectively and efficiently is an acronym, because we love acronyms, and it's CORE. All right? So effective students collect, organize, rehearse, and evaluate the information they're trying to learn. Now, a lot of students stop at the collect stage. All right? So I did this certainly when I was in college. I would go into class, right? I'd have my notebook and I'd write down every word that the professor said, right? And then I'd never look back at the notes again. Now, I know now that that's better than not doing anything, but it's certainly not the most effective and efficient way to manage the information that I'm trying to learn. All right, so the next step, of course, is to organize the information, and I'm going to give you some tools for organizing it. Something as simple as the Notice Wonder can help you organize information. So organizing it is important. Rehearsing it, and we'll talk a lot more about this. These two last phases, very few students do until the last minute. But if you can manage to rehearse and evaluate material all throughout the quarter and really focus on the stuff that's difficult for you, right, then test time is going to be a lot less stressful, right, because you are constantly thinking about what's hard for me, what do I need to ask help on, what do I need more practice on, that sort of stuff. But if you're not rehearsing and evaluating, you don't know what you don't know, right? And then if all you've done is collected and you have a midterm the next day, and it's not organized and you haven't been rehearsing, these things that are hard for you, that you don't have enough time to rehearse and get into your long-term memory, you're going to blank out when you get to the test, right? Because because anything that's just in your short-term memory, you're probably going to lose when you walk in the room, right? So it's a whole way of being every day, thinking about how you're collecting and organizing and rehearsing and evaluating information. All right, so here are some strategies for implementing this concept of core. One of my favorites is turning headings into questions. This works great for chemistry and biology. Right? It works great for social science, history, any philosophy, any class that you have a textbook with headings. So before I even read a chapter, I skim through looking for headings, bold words, italicized words, those sorts of things, and I turn them into a question. All right, so for example, let's see, this section is on improving your reading. So I might write a question such as, why are the limitations of speed important? Or why do I need to pay attention to my eye movements? Or what is meant by hearing my silent speech? Right? Or how do I keep comprehension in mind? And then, so I write out those questions before I even read. Some people write them in the textbook, so a textbook like this with big margins, that's possible to do. In fact, this is a study skills textbook, and the author actually modeled it here on the side. That works. My favorite is flashcards. So what I do is I write my questions on a flashcard before I even read the section. Right? I try to stick with how and why, sometimes what questions. And I'm open to changing them, because because you're kind of predicting what the important point is going to be when you make your question. And so sometimes you read the section and you think, I think a better question that's addressed here is blah, right? So then I always am open to revising your question. But most of the time you get it right, and most of the time you do a good job guessing potential test questions this way. So you have your study question here, and then, actually probably on the blank part, right? Study question here, and then as I write the answer on the card in my own words if possible, right? And so then, by the end of the chapter, I have a set of flashcards. So now I've collected it, it's organized, and now I can rehearse it, right? So I'm always paying attention to ones that are difficult for me, right? So what I love about the flashcards is that I can work through them and separate out the ones that are easy for me and really spend most of my time on the difficult ones, right? Because those are the ones that I'm going to need the most time on. And in fact, I might even, the beautiful thing about flashcards is that you can separate them and organize them in different ways, right? So I might have them separated by chapter. I can mix them up. If you study the same questions in the same order, sometimes due to the nature of human memory and the associations that you make, sometimes if the questions are in a different order, you won't remember the answers. So flashcards make it a lot easier to make sure that that doesn't happen. And I like to separate out ones that are difficult for me. And you can keep this stack going throughout the quarter, right? And then if at the end of every study session, the last few minutes, you're going through all the flashcards that you have and separating out the ones that are difficult for you and reviewing those. And after a while, the ones that you know for sure you don't even have to deal with anymore. Maybe you just flip through them later, right before the midterm or something, just to make sure there isn't any that you've forgotten. But this way, you're constantly reviewing, you're constantly evaluating what's easy for you and what you need help on or more review, right? And you're effectively and efficiently studying, because you don't want to waste time, because we like to do this actually. Sometimes when we're studying, we do things like choose our favorite class to do homework for first and run out of time for the class that we really don't like. So it's always a good idea to do the class you don't like first, or that is difficult. We like, it's fun to do things that are easy for us. It makes us feel smart, makes us, and if we're interested, that's even better. But I think that if you consciously work to focus on the stuff that's hard for you, you will do better. Okay? So that's headings into questions and flashcards. Similarly, if you have the advantage of having a traditional textbook or even an ebook, although for studying purposes, honestly, for most people, textbooks are better, but we do what we can, right? But nonetheless, there are all kinds of features to a lot of textbooks if you're lucky, right? As for example, this one, if I get to the beginning of a chapter here. So at the very beginning of the chapter, he has a concept map that has all the major topics of the chapter that I can read before, so I can even use this to form some of my guiding questions before I even start reading, because this is how he's organizing the chapter. So if I get that already in my brain, I already have an idea about how information is organized in this reading. It's going to help me remember more. He also includes the important points right here. Right? He's got study questions, again headings and bold and charts, and at the end of the chapter, he has little quizzes, that your teacher might not assign, but it doesn't mean you can't use it to test yourself, right? And it's like if you don't know the answer, you need to go back. That's a place that again, you can use for evaluation. There's glossaries and textbooks. There's all kinds of tools that can help you that a lot of students don't use. Right? So a good textbook, the information is organized well, so it really helps you in these two stages. Not all of them. Some of them don't do a very good job. But if you're lucky enough to have a good one, that's really helpful. All right. Golden lines. What if you don't have headings, right? What if you're reading a novel or something like that, right? A lot of students, again, will go home and read, but not necessarily do much thinking about how do I really prepare for a discussion or something like that. One thing you can do is the notice and wonder. That works with a book like this. The other one that I really like is golden lines, where I'll highlight or mark lines that I think are important or bring up an interesting idea, or maybe I don't agree with, or whatever the case might be. This jumps out at me for some reason, and I might make a note about why it does. But then I know if I come to class with 3 or 4 lines that I thought were particularly intriguing or important, then I know I have something to contribute right away, right? And it will help you remember it better, in all honesty, right? So that works really well for books without headings. For biology and chemistry, have you ever seen Cornell Notes before?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is another model of Cornell Notes. You can do it just on notebook paper too if you want.
Yeah.
And you can use it for lectures or for reading. So anyway, you've been through that. I won't emphasize it too much, but I will give you this, and you can see the main structure is the recall column here. This is where you actually record the notes, and this is like a 3 or 4 sentence summary. I always try to make sure I give as much information as possible about what the class session is, what the topic is. If I can come up with a question, if I can turn the topic into a question, that's usually helpful. And then I predict test questions over here. So I take notes here during class, then I go home and I write the test questions and the summary. So again, you can use it to self-test.
Yeah.
So if you have the concept of osmosis or something over here, right? Then you can ask yourself, what is osmosis? Why is it important? That sort of thing. And then you can cover that up and test yourself. That's what I like. The only danger, again, is the asking yourself questions in the same order trick.
Flashcards.
That's why I like flashcards better. And if you go over to the nursing department, you'll see lots of people with flashcards. Another that works really well for math and chemistry is the 3-column note-taking system. So what happens sometimes in chemistry and math is that people will write down the problems that the teacher puts on the board, and then they go home and they're like, what does this mean? Right? Or worse, if you haven't been studying, doing this whole process of core, you might not even look at it again until right before the test, and then you're like, how do you do that again? Right? So the 3-column strategy works really well for math and chem. Here in the first column, you put the concept, like it might be the associative property or something like that, or the formula, like the quadratic formula, or whatever formula you're learning. You write that here. That might be the only thing in this column if it's a complicated problem that you're working through. And then you don't have to write down every problem, but be sure you get an easy one and a hard one, right? An easy one and a hard one at least, so that if you are frantically, especially if the professor talks fast and writes fast and you're trying to keep up, if you're frantically trying to make sure you get everything on the board, sometimes you're not listening, you're just scrambling to copy. So if you focus on getting at least one easy one and one hard one down in your notes, then you can write down the steps in words here on how to solve the equation or the problem. And if you can do that, then when you look back in your notes, you have it all written right here, exactly what the process is. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And then you know it. And you can even quiz yourself with that too. You can cover it up and have the problem and see if you can talk through the steps. And then when it comes to test taking, this is just a little test taking trick in chem and math. Unless your professor, which sometimes happens, like adamantly says not to write anything down, which is rare, but it can happen. If you have scratch paper or even on the back of the test, as soon as you sit down, write all the formulas that you have to remember, so that then you can relax and know that you've got the formulas here. Now you can focus on applying and doing the problems. Because if you're just like, sometimes people are just really stressed by having to remember the formulas, so that kind of distracts them from the details of the math problems. Okay? So that's when you forget the negative sign and stuff like that, and then you get the whole problem wrong. So anyways, this is really helpful for chemistry. It can take a lot of paper. I mean, it really can, because some of the problems are long, and like when you get into calculus and stuff like that, you really might only have one problem on the page, but it's so helpful. So helpful. Okay, well,
I think it was pretty good. I like the flashcards thing. I totally use.
good. I hope you do.
Yeah.
It's definitely my favorite. I wish I had used it in college, but
Yeah, because I take notes. I do flashcards, but I take notes on in a notebook, and I know I'm not going to look back at the notebook.
yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, good.